Men of Sparta, position your brand for glory!
Do you know the original name of Miller Lite? Could I possibly interest you in a Gablinger's Diet Beer? Probably not. Because Gablinger's Diet Beer sounds like a 19th century medicine show cure for gout. You'd never believe the taste great half of taste great, less filling tagline. Necessary name change aside, Miller Lite was the leading light beer for decades because it established the light beer category by defining the product category's attributes. Now, originating a product category in order to be the category leader, which is what we all want, right, is a tall task. But there are other ways to be a category leader through the art and marketing science of brand positioning in this episode of Branding Hacks. In the last episode, I noted there's no established best practice in branding. I received feedback and pushback on this assertion through LinkedIn, including a Fortune 500 marketing VP who essentially said, well, so what? My market research team and the 5 agencies we use bring a ton of brilliant people to the table. Possibly so, but she was confirming my point. In the absence of industry best practice, we rely on geniuses to show us the way in branding. But while genius is sometimes genius, it can be erratic and subjective. Branding should and can be a repeatable business operation, and that starts with establishing a best practice. So let's work toward a definition of a best branding practice by starting with my stripped to the essentials definition of branding. Branding is creating belief in the superior value of your brand to drive marketplace sales and your brand's worth as a financial asset. Remember, a brand has 2 interdependent sources of value to its owners. The key phrase, of course, is creating belief in the superior value of your brand, which sounds kind of heroic, doesn't it? Like something King Leonidas from the movie 300 would say if he was a marketer.
Men of Sparta, position your brand for glory!
As I showed by citing Apple's famous Think Different campaign in our last episode, the first step in creating belief in your brand's superior value is differentiation, which is setting your brand apart from competitors by presenting contrasting and valued brand attributes and customer benefits. For example, Miller Lite differentiated itself from diet beer by generally not tasting like a gout remedy, and unlike regular beer, it didn't leave you feeling bloated like a Macy's parade float. Which brings us to the second key step in a best branding practice, brand positioning. In the case of Miller Lite, by simultaneously positioning themselves against 2 existing product categories, Miller created a 3rd product category, light beers. Way back in 1981, Al Reese and Jack Trout wrote Positioning, the Battle for the Mind. This slim paperback is fat with wisdom and still relevant, very relevant in the digital age. It doesn't present a best branding practice, but offers discipline and how to think about branding through the lens of positioning. Positioning is placing your product in its most advantageous context in both the mind of the prospect and the competitive marketplace. Because branding really is about discovering and communicating competitive advantage, not just awareness or image. The best position, of course, is to be the market leader in your category. People use cognitive shortcuts all the time to decide which brand to choose. What should I do? And simply being known as the leader is the mother of all shortcuts. When in doubt, and they often are, customers choose the leader. Often the leader's real opportunity, you can call it their job, is not taking market share from challenger brands, but growing the overall industry category. I was the moderator of a branding panel at which the marketing VP from Lincoln Electric, the big global leader in welding equipment, said Lincoln's challenge was how to grow the number of trained welders in the world, workforce development. Why? Because Lincoln's customers would buy more equipment, except there aren't enough welders to hire. Of course, most brands aren't market leaders. Sorry to tell you that. They're challengers who may never become the overall leader. But no need to get bummed out about it. You can own a position within a category by being the leader in a specific customer benefit and be extremely profitable by doing so. Think of a challenger brand like Ace Hardware, battling the two leading big box home improvement stores. Ace owns a core attribute the customers value and Lowe's and Home Depot can't match. Ace is the place with the helpful hardware man. Sorry about that. But anyway, Ace earns profitable market share by positioning itself as the industry leader in customer service. So what brand positioning calls shortcuts, the academic science of behavioral economics calls heuristics. I like that word. Simple strategies or mental processes that people use to quickly form judgments and make a darn decision. For example, how have you gone about the relatively complex decision of choosing a bank? Do you weigh 90 data points, read all kinds of profiles and analysis? No, you don't, because if you're like most people, you start with a shortcut to quickly narrow down your decision by thinking in terms of two categories within the banking industry. Do I want to bank at a big bank or do I want to bank at a small bank? The heuristic at work for most people is the supposition that big banks offer more products and banking technologies, but small banks offer the benefits of personal relationships. How you doing, bud? I'm good. How are you? Is that true? Maybe. Regardless, it's a classic example of how customers make choices about brands. People seldom have the time or attention span, I bet you don't, to pursue the due diligence they like to think they do. Understanding the shortcuts people take in your industry presents opportunities to grow your market share through effective positioning. I simultaneously positioned a client, Farmers National Bank, as the leading small bank and as the leading alternative to bigger banks in its geographic footprint. We did this by showing that Farmers offers banking technologies that their community banking competitors can't match and that rivals that of bigger banks, while offering a relational culture that bigger banks can't claim.
I like a bank where relationships matter.
I like contactless banking, like this mobile mortgage app.
I like meeting face-to-face with my banker.
Me too, via an interactive teller machine.
I like a bank that's a pillar in my community.
I like a bank so cutting edge, they have a lab branch.
We are so alike.
Well, we do both bank at Farmers National Bank.
Farmers.
Stand strong.
So between this episode and the last one, we've now covered two of the three building blocks of the best branding practice: brand differentiation and brand positioning. In the next Branding Hacks, we're going to show why attributes and benefits are the core elements of every brand in every industry category, and how they can be ranked and assigned values to create a data-driven best branding practice. While data and digital technologies have combined to drive a revolution in one-to-one marketing, branding largely remains an opinion-driven practice, done today much as it was in the 1960s of Madison Avenue's Mad Men. It's time for that to change. And why am I wearing this helmet? Because I have to give it back to its owner, and I feel heroic wearing it. Until the next episode of Branding Hacks. Awoo!